Prime Minister says, I quote, "The reforms we put into childcare had their desired effect," end quote. The budget had nothing additional for childcare. Why is this Prime Minister punishing parents for working an extra hour or an extra day when they're just trying to get ahead during the Morrison recession?
The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I thank the member for his question. Mr Speaker, as the Minister for Education has just outlined, $9.2 billion for childcare. Up on last year, Mr Speaker. It will be up again next year and the year after that, Mr Speaker. Childcare will continue to be provided and supported by this government, particularly for low to middle income families for whom it has been a game changer. Now, we know that under Labor, childcare fees actually increased by 53% when they were government, Mr Speaker. 53%, Mr Speaker. It was a complete muddle of policy under those opposites. So when we came into government, Mr Speaker, we worked on changing that scheme, and since we've changed that scheme, Mr Speaker, we have seen those childcare fees, according to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, fall by 3.2% in terms of those childcare costs, Mr Speaker. As a result of those changes we put in place, Mr Speaker, we saw workforce participation increase for men and for women in particular to record levels as a result of the changes that we put in place. Now, Mr Speaker, I notice those opposite are saying here today, that the debt is too high, the deficit is too big. That's what they're saying. But they're also saying that the debt should be greater and we should spend more. So tonight the Leader of the Opposition has an opportunity. If he wishes to spend more, Mr Speaker, then he needs to say what in the budget he wants to spend less on.
The Prime Minister resume his seat. The Manager of Opposition on a point of order.
On direct relevance, the government said nothing about childcare on Tuesday. He can say it, but he'll be relevant to this question now.
No, that was a comment as well as a point of order, and I'll take it as a point of order on relevance. The Prime Minister has the call.
Mr Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition tonight, if he wishes to spend more on something, because he says the budget deficit is too big, he says the debt is too great, if he wishes to spend more, then he needs to say, Mr Speaker, what he's going to cut. Mr Speaker, he needs to say what he needs to cut, which roads, which dams, which hospitals, which schools, Mr Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition has an each-way bet on everything, Mr Speaker. He'd go for a win and a place in a two-horse race, Mr Speaker. That's what this Leader of the Opposition is about. He is the biggest each-way operator that we've seen come in this place, Mr Speaker. He's for everything and he's against everything at exactly the same time, Mr Speaker. I've got a tip for the Leader of the Opposition. If you're a person of conviction, you need to be consistent in what you're for and consistent in what you're against, Mr Speaker. You can't be for both at the same time. Mr Speaker, when this Leader of the Opposition sat in that chair, Mr Speaker, he became an each-way bet on everything, which means he can't be counted on for anything.